so goes a little shady spot. I go there when the house gets too high. Look through my fence and see those blossoms of white, leaves of green, and the cutest girl you've ever seen beneath my magnolia tree.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of PHM from Pittsburgh. I am your host, Dr. Tony Tarchici. I'm a MedPeds trained pediatric hospitalist here at the Paul C. Gaffney Division of Pediatric Hospital Medicine at UPMC Children's Hospital, Pittsburgh. The music you heard introing us in is from Dr. Matthew Garber, who's not only a pediatric hospitalist, but the AAP section on hospital medicine chair, whose birthday coincidentally coincided with the first National Hospitalist Day. The song is an original song of his that he wrote, titled My Magnolia Tree. Now, if you're a regular listener to my podcast, you know this is not how we normally start the show. What you're listening to is the first episode in a series that we created specifically for the Pediatric Hospital Medicine National Conference in Seattle this year from July 25th to 28th. I was approached by my guest today, who I'm going to introduce to you in just a minute, asked to create a set of podcast episodes specifically for the conference. Since I attend the conference every year, I was actually very happy to help. Some of you remember that I emailed the AAP section on hospital medicine listserv asking if anyone had any original songs or public domain music that they wanted or would allow me to play on the podcast as an intro and an exit for these special episodes. And I asked people to email them to me. Well, some people did, and I'm going to use them for these episodes to highlight some of our just non-medical talent in the hospitalist pool we have. So the question remains, what did we create? Well, with significant help from today's guest, who again I will introduce to you in a minute, I put together a series on leadership in pediatrics with a focus on pediatric hospital medicine. I interviewed 4 leaders in pediatrics individually, created 4 episodes with each interview, and discuss the topic of leadership in some detail, both in general as an overall topic and with their own specific examples. I'm going to be honest with you here. These episodes were not easy and very challenging for me to prepare, because up until this year, I've never really learned much about leadership as a topic. I took months to research this topic. My guests were all very impressive and wonderful to talk to, and I do love the way these episodes turned out. I hope you will as well. We have this episode introducing you to the conference that you're listening to right now. We're going to discuss changes in the conference. Well, by we, I mean my guests are going to discuss changes in the conference this year and tips on how to go about planning your time there. We created an episode on what to do while you're in Seattle with some of our colleagues from the hospital medicine group at Seattle Children's, which should be released at the same time of this episode, so please check it out. Thank you again for those who participated in that episode at Seattle Children's. There's an interview with Dr. Basil Zitelli, one of our plenary speakers, and someone who's practiced hospital medicine for over 40 years. We created an update on the measles epidemic episode with friend of the podcast, Dr. John Williams, which should also be released at the same time as this episode, so please look for it. And finally, we're going to be making some episodes from the conference while we're there this year, so keep an eye out or an ear out. Hopefully you like what you hear. Now, if you're a regular listener to PHM from Pittsburgh, first of all, thank you. If you're not going to the conference, don't worry. All these episodes are going to be available to you as well. I hope you enjoy them. If you're new to PHM from Pittsburgh, welcome. I hope you like what we've done. Some of these episodes will have CME attached and some will not. It just depends on the content. We can't put CME for everything like this episode we're listening to right now. If there's CME attached, just click at the bottom of the podcast description, which will take you to a University of Pittsburgh secure site. Create a login, answer some questions that I create for the CME, and voila, you're done. All the CME is AMA Category 1, and all the CME associated with this podcast is courtesy of the University of Pittsburgh, so thank you, University of Pittsburgh. Just one more thing for those of you who are new to our podcast, or for those of you who may have not heard this when I first did it on the very, very first episode in October 2016. We are a medical education podcast. We're sponsored by University of Pittsburgh and UPMC Children's Hospital Pittsburgh, specifically the Paul C. Gaffney Division of Pediatric Hospital Medicine. Therefore, we don't do advertising. We don't take sponsorship. This is a CME associated medical education podcast, and that's very regulated. So you will not hear advertising, and there are no conflict of interest for this. In fact, with every episode, if we give CME credit, you will note a conflict of interest statement prior to us beginning to talk about the material made by me and whomever the guest is. Everyone's always interested and concerned, appropriately so, about conflict of interest in whatever they're listening to for education, so I wanted to make sure that was clear. Without further ado, let me introduce my special guests. I'm very privileged to have Drs. Geeta Singhal and Eric Biondi on the show today. Dr. Geeta Singhal is a longstanding pediatric hospitalist for 20 years. She's a professor of pediatrics at the Baylor College of Medicine and sees patients at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, Texas. She has had the honor of being section chief, a fellowship director, and now is an associate vice chair of educational affairs for the Department of Pediatrics. She has a special interest in faculty development and is honored to be the co-chair of the planning committee for the PHM 2019 Seattle Conference. Dr. Eric Biondi serves as a co-chair of the PHM 2019 meeting. In his day job, he's an associate professor of pediatrics at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and the division director of Pediatric Hospital Medicine at Johns Hopkins Children's Center. Just for those of you who normally listen to my podcast, this episode will not have CME attached to it, so we don't have to do the conflict of interest. And for now, I'm going to turn it over to my guest to chat with you guys.
Well, this is Geeta. Thank you, Tony, for the kind introduction, and even more, we thank you for your dedication to this innovation about the podcast that Eric's going to describe a bit more to you all. But first, we're really excited to welcome you to the Seattle meeting. We've been busy planning for the past year and are ready to welcome everyone to this great meeting. A couple things that we wanted to tell you about, so you can make note of it, is our plenary speakers that we have lined up. We're very pleased to have our opening plenary, which will be called Innovations in Hospital Care for Complex Care Patients. We have a great speaker by the name of Dr. Hogan, who will also be introducing a family who lost a child to a chronic illness. And following that, on Friday morning, we're going to have Dr. Quinn Capers, who is actually nationally known for his work in mitigating bias for underrepresented minorities. And he is also very active on Twitter, so if you get a chance, check him out on Twitter. For our closing plenary, we are thrilled to have our own Dr. Basil Zitelli, who I'm sure many of you know about his textbook. He is a kind man who's going to be talking to us about bringing back joy to the bedside in the era of technology. So we are just thrilled about the lineup, and we hope you benefit from all these great speakers. For first-time attendees, we are pleased to announce two special events. One is a speed mentoring session, so stay tuned for more details about that. And we also are adding a new session, which will happen Thursday after the opening plenary for first-time attendees, which will offer an orientation to the meeting. As you all can imagine, PHM has grown so quickly, and there's a lot of different interests within our great community. So this workshop/session will give you a lay of the land, lay of the meeting, so you can learn how to most benefit from your time here in Seattle. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Eric Biondi.
A few new things this year coming to Seattle. The podcast is something that we really wanted to try this year, and Tony's been nice enough to put it all together. We've gotten a lot of feedback over the years about things that people want, leadership, hospital administration type stuff, or just topics that don't make great workshops or plenaries. And so what we tried to do was put together a few of those topics on podcasts prior. And I guess that's probably the series that Tony was talking about that we'll be putting out just prior to the meeting and that you can listen to at the meeting. So trying to expand content that way a little bit. The other thing that Tony's going to be doing is doing some recordings at the meeting itself, so that if you can't get to a specific session, every year we hear, oh, why did you schedule this session and this session at the same time? Well, the thing is, the meeting's getting big, the content's really good, and there's just no way anymore to not have conflicting or concurrent sessions that you might want to go to two sessions. So what we're trying to do is take what we figure are going to be the most popular sessions and do some podcasts so that if you have to choose one session, then you can listen to at least part or an interview with the person who did the other session that you were hoping to go to. E-posters are going to be another thing that is new this year. We're wading in a little bit, so we're not going crazy 100% e-posters. For those who like the traditional walking around, looking at physical posters, we're going to have some of the traditional poster sessions, and then we're going to have an e-poster session where there will be a room that you can go to and kind of flip through I don't know, I think it's going to be hundreds of conundrums and research abstracts kind of at your leisure along with the physical posters. And we will also be having sort of 5-minute presentations in that room where you'll have the author of the research abstract there if it's a specific abstract that you want to talk to that person or about that particular abstract. I will mention I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, and this is by far the highest quality research content that we've ever gotten. Research, QI, educational, all the submitted content this year, I think we're really excited about. There's a lot of innovative stuff. There's a lot of stuff on complex care, and I think it's just going to be just a really good conference that we're excited about, and you might even find a few surprises along the way at the meeting. And I think that's really all I had to say.
Well, all right. I hope for those of you listening that this served as a nice introduction to the conference, helped you figure out what will be there, so you may begin the pre-planning what you'd like to attend. Now time for our acknowledgments. Thank you again to my wonderful guest for not only being on the show today, but putting together a wonderful conference. It is not an easy task, and I appreciate the amount of time you put in. I'm sure we all do. Again, I want to acknowledge and thank Dr. Megan Keene-Tarchichi, who helps me with everything, the AAP section on hospital medicine, UPMC Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, and the Paul C. Gaffney Division of Pediatric Hospital Medicine and the University of Pittsburgh. The music that is exiting us out while we are leaving is still by Dr. Matthew Garber, who is the section on hospital medicine chair. The song is For All Eternity. I hope you all enjoy it. I'll see you at the conference.
That is just the way it's gonna be. 'Cause I don't wanna love you till the day I die. I'll love you for all eternity. When the rivers stop flowing, mountains crumble to the sea. No, I don't wanna love you till the stars go out. I'll love you for